Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Project Pro's podcast on AI monetization, where we speak with industry analytics and AI leaders on what business outcomes are they seeing with AI and analytics. Today, we are honored to have with us Kislay Raj. Kislay is the head of Philips Global Business Services Data Analytics Center of Excellence. He has over 19 years of experience across business analytics, business intelligence, data science, and AI. Kislay is also the among the 100 most influential AI leaders by the Analytics India magazine. And previously, Kislay spent almost 13 years at Barclays, where he was the head of data strategy analytics. Kislay, thanks for taking time to do this. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Binny, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to be part of this particular discussion on AI analytics. And in fact, from the organization perspective, what can we really think about when we deep dive into the analytics space, right? And I'm looking forward to the meaningful discussion, Binny.
Thanks. Thank you. So to begin with, I'm curious if you take something like supply chain management and finance, what is the nature of the problems the business functions face in those areas today?
Uh, of course, when you have an organization, Binny, I mean, of course, every organization, I'm not talking only about Philips, any product-based organization or even service-based organization, right? They have all these different functions. And let's talk about the functional structure, right? Like maybe the organizational structure. You have different functions like starting from the product to supply chain. Then you have finance taking care of it. Then you have, of course, within supply chain, you have warehousing, transportation, and all those things come invoicing, all those things comes as a part of it. Within, then you have finance, then you have procurement as well. So all of these functions encapsulates and makes an organization an organization. It is a matrix based organization, I would say. And then you have different functional leader. Of course, from the product space perspective, you'll have product leaders as well, because an organization have different product lines in which they deep dive into and sell those products into different markets across the globe, right? Then you have different product leaders as well. And when we are a global organization like Philips or maybe any other organization we have in the market, then you have market leaders as well. So what I'm trying to here say is, when you look into any organization from the holistic view, you see that it's a matrix-based organization where you have businesses, functions, and markets cutting across each other. And then when you see any problem at an organization level, it becomes a very big problem. The problem lies again at the analytics level also, but the core problem is at the functional level, because when you have a product and any function is trying to support that product, sell into the market, or get that market share for the organization, then it becomes a problem. Why are we not getting that market share? There the problem lies. And when you start getting into the deep inside what is that root causes of the problems, then you start into breaking into these pieces of different functions, or maybe into the processes. Like say, for example, in the procurement space, right? You have a lot of vendors we take care of. Right? And I'm talking about a generic problem. I'm not specific to any organization. It is a very generic problem which you will come across. Any leaders that can talk about it, right? In the procurement space, you have a lot of invoices which are getting posted into the SAP system, right? And sometimes it is automated, sometimes it is manual. Of course, I mean, most of the organizations have not gone into a fully automated way. So when I take about the real business case, then it is partially automated and partially manual, right? So let's talk about the partial manual case. When you are actually posting these invoices into the SAP system, a lot of manual errors can come into picture. Say, for example, somebody is posting that date of the invoice, and instead of MMDDYY, you post it as DDMMYY, right? Then at the end of the day, when that vendor will start claiming that dispute, you will end up again posting the same invoice with the correct, but somehow we miss it, rectifying the previous invoice which we posted it incorrectly. That can also be one of the cause, right? So this is the manual errors I'm talking about. In the automation errors, of course, everything is getting fed into the system, in the SAP system, like invoices are getting fed into the SAP systems or in automated fashion, right? But at the same time, when the vendors are playing certain malpractices, then it becomes a problem. They can also, because each and every vendor has different company code. That means they have different branches. So
Yeah.
they can actually ask any company with two different invoices, same date, but different company codes.
Right.
So what I'm trying to lay out here is that there can be different causes because
Yeah.
of which we are ending up paying the same
Double.
vendor
Yeah.
double. So that
Yeah.
is called duplicate payments. So we are
Yes.
basically duplicating the payments. And
Okay.
the reasons can be your cross company codes. It can be your DDMM, any manual errors which have fed into the system. It can be your cross currency codes as well, because the vendors are operating globally.
Right.
Sometimes they are sharing those invoices in an INR currency, sometimes in the Polish currency, sometimes in the Euro currency, right? So you end up paying those vendors duplicate way.
Right.
Now the challenges lies in the challenge what an organization faces, of course, is to have a model or have a system or have a process in place. So any organization would look like fixing that system first, fixing that process first, right? But process can be partially fixed by some controls and processes and the governance in place, right? Partially it can be automated, partially it can be fixed via advanced analytics algorithms as well. So any business problem or any business problem at an organization level cannot be a core solution at a process level or at an analytics level or at an algorithms level. It can be a combined uh, uh, accumulation of all these different factors coming into play and then creating a digital solution, which we call it as digital transformation, right? And that is called digital transformation because we are trying to create a process which is a robust, which is more efficient than before. And then now we have encapsulated some process mining. We have also encapsulated some RPAs into place, automated certain part of the processes, while we have deep dive into the data to understand what is the problem. Now, when we have understood the problem that there is a duplicate payment problem and we need to deal with it, analytics comes into play because every organization has plethora of data available. What we are not doing at this point of time is we are not deep diving into the data. We are not analyzing the data. The moment we start analyzing the data, we'll start seeing the problems. What are the root causes? It is not a tabular structure what we want to deal with. It is about different maps, charts, heat maps, scatter charts, plots, everything what we can do as a part of the visualization, which comes as a first part of it. So the first part of it is basically understanding the business problem and then getting understanding from the domain perspective what is that core problem we want to solve it. Is it only the process which we want to fix it, or is it only the duplicate payments granular part of one of the process which we want to fix it, right? So let's take example of only the granular part of that process where we want to fix the duplicate payments, right? So you get the data, you have the business understanding, you have the domain understanding, right? You acquire the data from all the SAP systems wherever your data is fed into, and then you start visualizing the data, analyzing the data, right? And then you solve it via different algorithms and models in place. Say you have 6 different reasons what you have found out. Cross company codes can be one of the reasons. Yeah. Then different currencies can also be one of the reasons. Like I named so many reasons, right? So all these reasons can be dealt separately with a different set of algorithms or models. Of course, you can write in any language. You can use R, you can use SAS, you can use Python, you can use Julia. But at the end of the day, the idea is that you have to deal with each of these problems, which is related to duplicate payments. You have to deal it separately via separate models and algorithm. Test it. Now, while I'm talking about this problem, this is an organization-wide problem. This is not a very simple, small problem. You just create a dashboard, you fix it and done and dusted in 3 months and 6 months. It is a big problem, big ticket item where you have to take in consensus approvals from all the different departments, due to which all the different departments or functions are getting affected. It can be a spend management team, it can be a procurement team, a bit of the finance team is also getting affected. So you need to have a buy-in from everybody. And moreover, the operations where this is executed manually.
Yeah.
You have a big organization, you have an operation team which is running these operations, feeding these invoices into. So you are trying to implement an analytical solution, an automated solution at an operational level. That means you are trying to change a process. And you know that everybody, each and every human being on this planet Earth is reluctant to change in the process. They don't want to change because that's a habit, and you are trying to change a process which has been into the system for so many years.
Right.
So basically, you are challenging it. So when you want to challenge a existing process which has been into the system for so many years, you need to ensure that you have run a POC for considerable amount of time. You have lot many different accuracies to actually prove and validate that your process is more robust, more efficient. Right?
Yeah.
So you have actually proven it running a POC for 1.5 years or 2 years with around historical data of say worth 12 months or 18 months, not lesser than that, because you are trying to change a big process within an organization, right?
Yeah.
Now comes the bigger problem that you have validated it, everybody has got the approval. Now you have to create this new process, you have to put this new process in place, which is a bigger challenge. It is again another change management exercise which you need to take care of,
Mm-hmm.
because any global organization has all the presences in different markets like NAM, LATAM, APAC, India, Greater
Right.
China. And now you have to bring that, and every market has a different tweaked process depending upon the policies of that particular market and the country. So you have a process in place, which you have a digital solution in place, which you actually throw back to the operations team. But you need to liaise with the operational leaders to help them understand, give them the training, documentation, awareness sessions month on month until they are confident to realize that this is the new process, they need to pick it up. And
Yeah.
that process of change needs to be a seamless process, as well as it needs to be very slow yet continuous. Slow yet continuous, very slow
Consistent.
transformation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So bit by bit, there also any analytics or a digital solution needs to be placed. There also we need to ensure that the change management program or change management project is taken care of. Because again, it's not a small piece of work which we are going to do. It's a big piece of change which we are bringing to at an organization level, right? So that was one of the
Right.
project, of course, I would like to really would really like to talk about in the procurement space.
Sure. So that's a very helpful method of looking at this, Kislay, which is you're basically saying before you start solving the problem, make sure it's a right problem you're solving. And also the way you laid out digital transformation is a combination of a process, the algorithm, and the analytics technology. So that's a very nice way you brought together digital transformation. So if you take the duplicate invoice problem in procurement, who are the stakeholders of a problem like that? Is it the CFO's office and the procurement team? Is that it, or are there other stakeholders?
So of course, uh, when in any organization doesn't have any solution, right, they would always rely on any third party vendor to take up this particular problem for their organization. And of course, find it out. First of all, identify the duplicate payments which an organization has already made, and then basically recover it on their behalf, right? If an organization doesn't have any solution, of course they will go to any third party vendor and they would work on their behalf, right? So it can be one of the area which any organization can look into rather than depending on the third party. Of course, there are a lot of things like we have learned in the management, make or buy. Either you buy it or either you make it, right? Either you make it or either you buy it and you set up the entire manufacturing facility within the company itself. In a similar fashion, either you create that automated digital solution, digital analytical solution in-house, or you depend on the third party vendor to create that solution for you. But the problem here is, the challenge here is that you will always be dependent on that company. There would never be diverging those algorithms, the models, the different causes which they have actually resolved for yourself. And on top of it, there will be a lot of commissions they would charge because there are a lot of recoveries they are doing on your for your organization, right?
Mhm.
So these are the challenges which organization can really look into rather than getting into the third party vendor space. They can create an in-house analytical solution, commission based model on which they are dependent on any other company, and it's a black box for them. Of course, I mean, while I'm talking about the third party vendor where you are dependent on somebody to take care of this part of the issue, right?
Mhm.
That means there is a lot of money you are paying as a part of the license, as a part of the engagement with that vendor, and as a part of the commissions which you are paying to that company
Mhm.
because of all the recoveries they are making for your organization, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So, of course, different departments comes into play, which are benefited or which will be benefited if
Yeah.
you run this particular solution. Right? Procurement can be, of course, can be one of it. Finance can be one of it. Spend team can also be one of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that makes sense. All these different stakeholders in that problem. So now for this specific problem of duplicate invoices, Kislay, is Gen AI making increase in accuracy for that problem, or was it previously being solved with some combination of RPA and OCR, and that works still fine, or Gen AI having a strong impact on that for that problem today?
So this particular problem, of course, we have not considered Gen AI. That is for sure. But Gen AI is, of course, it is talk of the town and it is buzz of the market at this point of time. Everybody wants to get into this space, generative AI, and of course, my organization or any other organization is no different, right? So, of course, generative AI is taking a lot of is getting a lot of attention, interest from the stakeholders, and again, like I said before, there are two ways to look into it. One is either you rely on the vendors which we have in the market, like you have Google, you have Amazon, you have Microsoft, and you can have a partnership with any one of the vendor and leverage that capability which is already there in the form of the models of generative AI, right? Else you set up that capability within the organization itself. So if I talk about Philips, then we have Microsoft partnership in which we have a centralized team which is getting set up or which has already been set up in the generative AI space. So, of course, from the generative AI capability perspective, uh, I would not say that it is already fully in function, but we are in the play right now, I would say.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, a chatbot is the most minimal thing which everybody is using at this point of time, right?
Yeah.
And all these APIs which are being shared by these vendors like Microsoft, you have all those APIs on top of your Chat GPT 4.0 model, which is the recent model, right? You have all those APIs, and that is just to actually increase the usage of overall capability in the generative AI space. Of course, I mean, I would like to actually talk about, since I'm actually in an external event, and one of the company actually was talking about product description for different e-commerce markets which they are taking care of. So that is one of the biggest usage anybody can see, because any product-based organization has a lot of products, right? And while you are employing or deploying a team to take care of all those product descriptions which is put into the e-commerce portal, you can have a generative AI model in place running all those algorithms behind the scenes to generate that description for yourself. Like you have, like, for say for example Amazon, and you have dresses, girls dresses or women's dresses, and say for example a girl is wearing a floral frock, right? So what are the attributes which a generative AI can really think of? It can really think of the what kind of the dress it is, what kind of the material it is, what kind of the shape it is, age group. Then you can have the print, then you can have the material, cloth. Even floral print can also be one of the attribute, right? And then we can use these attributes can again be used and can be reused in other models as well. It is not that once you have got these attributes from one of the business case, you cannot reuse it. Of course, it can be remodeled, tweaked a little bit, can be used further. So lot many different generative AI use cases I can really think of. In fact, I would say even at the functional level, right? At the operations, we were talking about the operations, right? In the supply chain, when you have all those different invoices, orders, or say disputes also in the finance space. Any operations team can get into any of the chatbot and can actually put a question there. Where is my order? Where is my invoice? What is the invoice status? And they can absolutely get that details. How it is getting function, because that chatbot, instead of sitting on languages or text data, they can sit on a particular table, and they can actually access all the different layers of the tables to extract that information. Of course, at the backend, it would run your SQL queries and all those things. But intelligently, just by looking at your statement in English, it it is actually contextualizing that it is a kind of a SQL query which he needs to run, that model needs to run and give you back the answers in terms of the number of orders in the place for a particular product for a particular month, or the number of sales what a company has actually generated for a particular month for a particular business area, right? So a lot of different use cases, of course, organization can really think of in the generative AI space, but it is garnering a lot of attention, I would say, and it is not going to end here soon, right?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And earlier you had mentioned that you will go through 12, 18 months of POC, taking 12, 18 months of historical data, do a POC before taking things to production, right? So many times we hear about AI projects or analytics projects not making it to production. So what really goes wrong after you run it back tested with 18 months of data? Then what goes wrong before you take it to production? Why don't many of these projects go to production?
It's a very good question, yet a very risky and challenging question, Binny, because at times it is the prime responsibility. Here we are talking about the organization-wide initiative. Right. That means we are not talking about a small project. We are talking about a program which has many small projects running at the same time or work streams running at the same time. Right. So we are talking about a program failure here. A program can fail at any stage. We need to now, if we are failing at a very initial stage, then it is good. But if we are failing at a deployment stage or when we have completed the entire POC worth 18 months of period, then it is a big failure, because we should not have been there. We should have actually taken that call long before, because we have invested a lot of effort, cost, time, resources, everything. And then we are taking a call that we should not go ahead with this project. Then it is a flaw at the very program charter level, because we have not chartered that program very well. We have not, there can be n number of reasons. Either your model is not correct, which can be fixed at any point of time. But the major problem lies because we have not taken approvals or buy-ins from most of the stakeholders, because here we are talking about the major programs. And so when you start when we start any particular program at an analytics level, we need to ensure that everybody understands what are we going to try, what are we going to solve at the end of the day, in what timeline, and how can we really check the results of that particular model or that analytical piece which is going to be in the operations, and take a buy-in then and there. Because if you have that buy-in that this is the problem, we are going to solve it at the end of the day after 18 months, and this is the solution we are expecting, and this is the quantitative measures we are expecting, right? Because at the end of the day, your executive stakeholders are sitting on top of all these bottom line and top line, all these numbers, right? Numbers is what they value, and they would really want to see that numbers. So expect what they want, get the requirements clearer done as a part of the project charter, get the approvals done, set the expectations right, that this is what we are going to do. And it should be an agile movement. That means that as we are progressing on the POCs also, we need to have that approvals at every stage, that this is how we are progressing. If you have any issues, just have a chat, and even if you want to change a project charter a little bit, there can be certain time length until which we can still go ahead and change that project charter. Because after 6 months or 7 months, we have already progressed so much, we have invested heavily, we cannot go back. Either we can shut down that project, or we can say that we are a failure. Right?
Right. Makes sense. So it goes back to the thing saying the problem is almost always larger than technology. It's the people, it's the process, it's the priorities, and things like that. Right. Okay. So, just slightly shifting gears, Kislay, as a analytics leader, right? What would you say are your top priorities or mandate currently?
Since I'm in a product-based organization, Binny, right? Of course, my team and I deal with many different functions, like I said before. And the functions start from procurement to supply chain to finance to product data, each and every functions within the GCC capability. And all of these functions are core functions, right? Sometime back, when I was part of different organizations or even in current organizations, I felt that we are taken as enablers, because at the end of the day, analytics is going to enable something. Now, how that enabling part is going to give you quantitative value or savings at the end of the day, it's a question, and it remains unsolved. Sometimes it will give you, sometimes it may not give you, because maybe you are trying to improve something, or maybe you are trying to to give some insights. So giving insights will not give you the values or savings at the end of the day. While you have the insights at the place and you are trying to work on those insights to improve a particular part of the process, then only you'll get the savings at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm going back to your question, sometime back, of course, we were considered as enablers. Now, I think each and every organization has a mandate as a part of their vision and strategy that analytics is a core function, because at the end of the day, it is cutting across each and every functions, businesses, markets, enabling and at the same time improving their overall top line and bottom line numbers, right? So what I see that shift in the mindset is that everybody has started embracing this technology in the name
Okay.
of analytics, in the name of generative analytics, or whatever name you call it, or machine learning,
Yeah.
or yeah. Now that mind shift has actually created a lot of change in the strategy as well. And when your organization-wide strategy changes, and when your organization actually starts helping you out, that yes, we are looking at analytics as one of the core function, and there we are
Yeah.
there to help you understand your thought process, how you can really
Yeah.
make a difference at an organization level, it really means a lot. Now, from my strategy perspective, I look at, since we are now recognized as a core function, placed or better, we are better now positioned to take the challenge at an organization level. Now,
Yeah.
taking the challenge is one part of it. Enabling my team and improving or upskilling my team is another part of it. Because
Right.
considering that we are now the core function and we can change the overall organization paradigm, is of course very promising. It is very good to hear. It is very
Right.
promising to hear, but it's a big challenge. You need to upskill yourself. The first step needs to actually consider that what is the skill set gap within your team.
Yeah.
Is it only at the visualization level, or what kind of balance you have within the team, from starting from data engineering to process analysis, business analysis, to your
Yeah.
visualization, to your advanced analytics, and now generative analytics, generative AI as well, because generative AI is a
Yeah.
different skill set altogether. We are talking about NLP, LLMs, all those things comes into play. It's a different
Yeah.
area altogether. So all of these things should be in place, and we need to actually, I need to understand basically what I need to focus on better. Generative analytics is, of course, is the talk of the town. I think it can change a lot of processes which are right now running in, like you have, like I talked about so many examples, right? We can have chatbots helping the operations. We can have chatbot creating those descriptions of the product, right?
Yeah.
So all of these things, of course, can be taken care of via generative analytics, and of course, that can be one of the focus area for the next year as well. But skill set and resourcing is a bigger thing we need to look at.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And today, when you talk about skill gaps and upskilling the current team, what is the most common way to upskill the team? Do you kind of partner with the popular Coursera's and Udemy's of the world, or is it in-class trainings? How do you usually prefer the mode of upskilling today?
I think it's a mix of everything, Benny, because I believe that until and unless you don't have a project to really work upon, all these
Yeah.
trainings on the mock data are, of course, you get trained and then you forget it in a span of
Yeah.
time, unless and until
Yeah.
you have a meaty project to work upon where you can actually
Yeah.
showcase. So I think a bit of theoretical knowledge along with 20-30% of the theoretical knowledge, along with 55-65% of your practical expertise or practical hands-on experience is a must in order to train any
Nice.
particular team. Now you can
Okay.
actually take that challenge, or anybody can take that challenge, or I can say I can take that challenge for my team for a small use case where I need to foray. Say, for example, my team needs to foray into the generative AI space. Of
Yeah.
course, I cannot take the bigger challenge. What I would do is I can take a smaller challenge of creating a chatbot for a particular function, or maybe a particular
Yeah.
part of the process or a particular part of the function, and see if we are excelling there or not. And if yes, then you would always find that Pareto rule, right? Pareto principles always applies everywhere. You will always
Yeah.
find some 20% of the resources uh, excelling in that particular area, and that can be your champions to train the other part of the teams later on,
Makes sense.
taking the baton across all the different projects we can foresee, or we are really thinking of in the near future.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And just I know that one other area that you have exposure to is cash flow analytics. Could you maybe just kind of give us an idea of what are some of the problems that you deal with when it comes to cash flow analytics or financial analytics?
So if we don't have finance, I mean, of course, none of the organizations can really thrive. Of course, they cannot excel or they cannot even sustain anything unless until their cash flow remains consistent and they are looking at the cash flow that it is positive and consistent.
Yeah.
Right. So, of course, we need to ensure that all the different recoveries we want to do from the accounts receivables perspective. I'm talking about the finance AR, again, the AP part of it as well, right? So whomsoever we need to pay it from the accounts payables perspective, we should ensure that the terms and the conditions are, of course, are in the benefit of the suppliers or the vendors. At the same time, whether it is benefiting or we are losing by certain period or by certain interest. So those are the areas, of course, we can really look at to ensure that accounts payables are really robust and in benefit of the organizations, right? Again, now from the accounts receivables perspective, Benny, uh, of course, we are talking about the recoveries to be done in a much more robust way. So our collections team or our collectors are efficient enough to get the collections done for all the recoveries due for so many years or months or role. I mean, of course, analytics plays a very vital role over here because you need to actually get at the details of what are the recoveries which are due. Of course, if it is due, then is it overdue? And if it is overdue, then it is overdue by how many days? Is it 90 days, 180 days, 360 days? Is it coming into the category of aged overdues, right? And if yes, then who are the customers who needs to be tracked? Are those customers, I mean, what is the credit life cycle of those customers? Then what are the different disputes raised by those customers? Then you go at the invoices level. So there are a lot many analytics which a person can do at the accounts receivable perspective as well, right? And each and every part of it, like I've talked about the invoice management, dispute management, everything can be one other project of the overall cash flow program.
Makes sense.
Because we are talking about here a cash flow, and cash flow is basically part of it's a calculation based on account receivable and accounts payable.
Right. Lots of sub problems adding up to the cash flow analytics problem. Okay. And finally, Kislay, just shifting tracks away from the use cases, would love to understand, one thing, which is if, like, other than skilling, what do you think is your biggest challenge or problem? And if you had a dream product out there to solve your number one problem, what would that be?
Awareness amongst the leaders about the ever-changing technology. That is the biggest challenge as I see at this point of time. Of course, I have already spoken about it, that there's a lot of traction we are getting from the senior leaders and across the world. We are seeing that interest in the advanced analytics space. But the problem here is that analytics as the word is only considered one part of it. But what analytics can do and what is that, the space in which analytics can really play a bigger role, that awareness sessions can be a game changer at an organization level. Because you have a budget for procurement, you can have a budget for supply chain. Similarly, you need to have a separate budget for one of the core function analytics.
Makes sense. Yeah, this is great to say. Thanks for sharing this, and really appreciate you taking time to do this. This was very helpful covering the cash flow analytics and the duplicate invoice use cases. Thank you.
Thanks, Binny. It was very nice speaking to you.